Okay, welcome to Chapter 7, Video 3. This is Miss Lewison. We covered demographic transition model in Video 2. Hopefully you're good with that. We're going to wrap this up with some odds and ends in Video 3. So again, women are highly important when we talk about human population. We know if women are educated, even if that education is just high school education or even middle school or family planning, that will decrease their fertility rate. Affluence among women, having status, being able to make money or own property, that kind of thing, will allow them to have fewer children. Having a job or income, again, raises their status and they'll end up having fewer children. So all of these things allow women to have fewer children. They delay having children. They control when and if they want to have children. And this is really, really important because if we want to plateau or control the human population, the best way to do that is through women. Providing women with jobs and careers and education and opportunities will increase their status and allow them to control their fertility, which is very important. So women are, in many ways, shapes and forms, the keys to controlling our world population. Okay, let's talk about family planning. Family planning. Okay. Family planning is not abortion. Is not abortion in any way, shape, or form. People often equate it, and we cannot do that. That's bad. Family planning clinics allow women access to medical care, fertility care, birth control, education, that kind of thing. That's what every woman needs, no matter what her socioeconomic status is. Most women, of course, go to a doctor and they provide that, but if you cannot have a doctor or you don't have a doctor and you don't have the money to go to one, we need to make sure that you are still able to care for yourself and for your children when you decide to have them. So family planning is very important. We see in that access to family planning, deciding just how babies are made and how we can control that and how we can choose when and if we want to have children. We can see in this diagram what it's done to our overall birth rate. It really drops the overall number of children being born. It actually also allows women to have healthier children. So controlling when and if women want children is extremely important. There are many ways to control whether you want children or when and if you want children. Abstinence, of course, is avoiding sex completely. Just avoiding sex during ovulation or when a woman can get pregnant is not the most effective way and would never be suggested by me or a doctor because it's just dangerous. It's much better to use many of the variety of birth control methods we have, and I will go over a lot of these in class because I think it's important that you know your options and what's out there. Mechanical barriers, those are actual barriers like condoms or a diaphragm. Diaphragms are not used very often anymore because it's just there's so many other choices out there, and please excuse my dogs, they're deciding to be rowdy. But I'll explain that in class. We can use hormones, birth control pills, patches, Norplants, things they stick under your skin that provide estrogen and progesterone, which control your period. In other words, it makes a female body believe it's pregnant, and so it never ovulates an egg and therefore cannot get pregnant. You can have physical barriers to implantation. This means that egg and sperm can meet, but it doesn't implant in the uterus, and so a baby never grows, like an IUD. That's an intrauterine device. It's a little piece of metal that they actually put into the uterus that basically changes the chemistry of the uterus and does not allow for implantation. So a baby will not be conceived, or is conceived but will not implant and form. Sterilization, that's sterilizing you so you cannot have children. Tubal ligation cuts the tube between the ovary and the uterus so the egg can't get there, so it can never find the sperm. Or a vasectomy in a man cuts the pathway for sperm, so a man never produces, well, he produces sperm, but it never can find its way out of the body, if you will. There is abortion. I'd like to think that most women, abortion is a last resort kind of thing, because with all these other methods available to you, you should never get to the point where you have to have an abortion, but unfortunately some pretty nasty things can happen. There is also RU486. RU486 is the day after pill. Please realize that this is available to you at any pharmacy. All you have to do is walk up and ask for it, and they have to give it to you. It's pricey, but it's available. And again, that would change, it changes the chemistry of your uterus and doesn't allow implantation. So those are ways to end a pregnancy. So if needed, they're there. But hopefully, if women are educated to all the other potential methods of avoiding pregnancy, abortion and things like RU486 become unnecessary, which would be a nice thing. But we'll talk more about birth control in class, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so let's look at the world's most populous countries. Of course, China and India are 1 and 2, and India will probably overtake China pretty shortly. The United States is the most populous developed country, at about 330 million now. That says 307, it's a little old. About 330 million now. And then we have go down, and the next most populous developed country would be Russia at 142, and then Japan at 128. So you can see most of the largest populated countries are developing countries, and that's because of their high birth rate. And a few of these might overtake the United States. We'll see. Okay, so relationship between economic development and population growth rates for developed nations. You can see that the population growth rate for developed countries is basically non-existent. It's very, very slow growth. And that's, again, where developed women are educated, choosing to have less children. You can see there's a greater distance like here versus here, and that's because India is growing rapidly. And China, and then a lot of African nations are growing pretty good. And some of your others are starting to kind of plateau, but they're growing pretty well. Again, as I said before, our population growth on our planet is not occurring in developed countries. It's occurring in the developing countries, the transitional countries. And those are where we need to be, educating women and providing information and family planning. Okay, your ecological footprint is basically how much space on this planet is needed to support your lifestyle. Unfortunately, the United States has a huge ecological footprint. Australia is right up there with us. Most of your developed countries, of course, are going to have higher ecological footprints because we have the money to have bigger houses, more technology, use more energy. We are energy hogs. We use a ton of energy. We love having space. We don't want little houses. We want big houses. Well, except for Miss Thurston, who wants a tiny house. So that is what drives that. So we require a lot of space, a lot of space to provide for us. In developed countries too, we are more likely to have a meat-based diet, which means that takes more room because we have to grow the food for the meat, for our chickens or cows and stuff like that. So we eat higher in the trophic level, and that requires more space. So if everybody on our planet, all 7+ billion people, lived like we do here in the United States, we'd need about 5.5 planets to support them. So we definitely can't have everybody living like us, or maybe what we need to do is we need to stop using so much and kind of bring our consumption down, which would be a very good thing for our planet. Okay, last thing, or almost, no, we have a few more things. IPAT, the IPAT equation. It's not an actual equation, but the idea is that our impact on the planet has to do with our population, our affluence, and our technology. Population, of course, the more people we have, the greater the impact, and the more negative the impact. Affluence. Affluence is money. Usually the more money we have, the more we buy, the more we need, the more space that's required to do it and stuff. And so that has a negative impact on our planet as well. Technology kind of is good and bad. Technology can be bad because a lot of our technology, our computers and cell phones, have metals in them that are very rare and very toxic and very hard to find. So we're digging up the planet to get them, which is bad. And we use a lot of energy for our technology, which is bad. But there's also the other side of it, in that if you have the technology, then you can do things to fix it. So with regards to pollution, we'll talk about, we have electrostatic precipitators and scrubbers, and on our cars we have catalytic converters, all of which is technology to reduce our impact on the planet. So technology kind of can be either. It can be good and it can be bad. It just depends on the situation. Okay, let's wrap up the last few things. So percentage of people living in urban areas, you can see the world is becoming very urbanized. More people are living in urban areas, and urban areas actually use more resources than rural families. Largest urban areas, Tokyo, Japan is #1, then New York, Mexico City is 3, Mumbai, India, just some of the largest cities. Just kind of be, you should know the first couple. Okay. Last thing, the impact of affluence. So as we said, more money means we use more. So gross domestic product, or GDP, is a value that countries are given. It's the value of all the products and services produced in a year in that country. The higher that is, the more affluent a country is, and probably the more they use. So GPD, or gross domestic product, is made up of consumer spending, investments, government spending, and exports minus imports. A country's gross domestic product often correlates with its pollution levels. So as your gross domestic product goes up, your pollution may go up as well. Of course, there's always that situation that if you're a very well-developed country, you might be using technology to bring your pollution rates back down. Okay, so that wraps up video 3 for Chapter 7. We are done with Chapter 7. If you have any questions about anything in Chapter 7 or this video, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Bye.